And welcome back. Now, the Democratic Alliance's caucus leader in the City of Johannesburg, Funzela Ngobeni, has resigned to join the city's former mayor, Herman Mashaba's People's Dialogue. Ngobeni was a member of the mayoral committee for finance during Mashaba's leadership. He also stood as the party's mayoral candidate, but was defeated by the current mayor, Geoff Makhubo. Funzi Ngobeni says that he will be joining the People's Dialogue starting today. Now, the DA's former CEO, Paul Boughey, also joined the party. But let's hear from Mr. Ngobeni and Mashaba, who are joining me in studio now. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Sakina.
Good morning to the listeners as well. What a great day.
So let's start at the end, yes. Mr. Ngobeni. So this weekend, you're out campaigning for the Democratic Alliance for the upcoming by-election.
Yes.
And then, as they say, jiggy jiggy, here you are, you've resigned. What happened?
No, I mean, I had an assignment with the DA and I had to finish it, I can't just stop working because the following day I'm going to join a new company, I had to finish what I was assigned to do, and I did that with honor and with humility. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that DA gave me for the past 10 years as an activist, as a public rep. They've allowed me to lead a number of structures in the DA, and I've always done my best and gave it my all. So I thought, look, this is a time for me to leave and go and build a new alternative in that Mashaba, and I'm very happy that I've taken that decision and I'm here now. When
did you take that decision?
Well, it's been a decision that I've been mulling up a lot about, and and I've been engaging with my family and friends, and with Ntate Mashaba as well. I had a chat with him to just obviously get to the bottom and understand his vision and where he want to take the People's Dialogue to. And I've been reading a lot about his ideas, since he left us last year, and all those things, made me to believe that it's the right time, to go and make a difference. Sakina, our country is in trouble. Our economy is crumbling, and our South Africans are looking for solutions, are looking for a party that can be able to take them somewhere. And I think all of us need to look at the initiative that has been started by Ntate Mashaba and see if we can be able to support it. And I've raised my hand to say I'm prepared to do the work. I'm prepared to come and assist him to build the structures on the ground and ensure that it becomes a success.
And we'll come to that alternative in just a moment. But you're right when you say the country is in trouble. By all indications, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
The country is also in trouble by having leaders who seem to have a truth deficit in their interaction with the citizenry. So take us into your confidence. When Mr. Mashaba left the DA,
yes,
did you at that point consider leaving with him?
Not at all. I mean, at that time I was still busy with the assignment of the DA that I've been allocated to, and I was committed to it, and I continue to do my work even then. But here's the thing, Sakina, I've worked with Ntate Mashaba for the past 3 years, and his record speaks for itself. I think over and above everything, South Africans know what the problems are. They know the unemployment. They know that there is lawlessness in the country. They know that there's solutions. But there's politicians who are not willing, who don't have the truth, like you say, and who don't want to really take action,
But are you being truthful with us now? Because when Mr. Mashaba left the DA, he was very clear about his reasons for leaving the DA. So did you still believe in the DA that he left when you remained behind?
Look, I mean, I think the issues in the DA are quite public. There's a document, a 26-page document that have assessed, the performance of the DA since 2019, and the contradiction that exists. And that document is called the Review Panel Assessment, and it's public, and it illustrates the problems that are in the DA, and those issues is issues that we have been raising, many of us in the DA, and that continues to plague the discussions in the DA. And I think, look, I wish them luck in resolving those matters, because there's also key recommendations that that were made by that panel, which some of them the DA is already starting to attempt to implement, and I wish them luck in resolving them. You know, those contradictions with regards to issues of redress, of race, of how they can be able to attract the black votes into the party. All those contradictions are there on the document. There's possible recommendations that they're supposed to implement, and I wish them very luck to be able to do that. I've been engaged, since then with the draft documents, policy documents that have been circulated, in the public and in the party itself, and I don't have confidence that those type of solutions will actually take the DA further. I don't think they will be able to get solutions out of the policy document that they are presenting to the public currently. So those are some of the reasons that have reinforced my view that it's important that we must now look at an initiative that the Mashaba has started and making sure that we build it so that it can be able to be an alternative for all South Africans. And I think we are running out of time. The more we sit and discuss and try and resolve issues that we know very well solutions to them, but we are not prepared to implement them. The time is running out, and we need to act now.
So just to bottom line it, in layman's terms, very succinctly, why did you leave the DA?
Well, I left the DA because I think that at this particular moment they're not the right vehicle to be able to take us further. I think that
But what does that mean?
Look, I mean, I'm saying the contradictions that are currently there in the DA, the problems that plague the party at this moment, makes it not a viable option for us as South Africans.
I'm trying to get you to speak plainly.
Yes.
What does that mean? Why are you leaving the DA? What is wrong with the DA?
What is wrong with the DA is in the 26-page document that I've spoken about. It's issues of race that are plugged in the party.
The public is not going to read the 26-page document. You tell us very succinctly, this is why I left the DA in layman's terms. So someone who's watching you right now, who's thinking of joining Herman Mashaba's People's Dialogue that you are now joining, explain to them why they should perhaps follow you from the DA, or why they shouldn't believe in what the DA has to offer since you walked away.
Look, I mean, the issues of redress in this country are quite important. It's very important that we must acknowledge the injustices of the past, that we must clearly come out and say it's important that we must address those injustices, and we must come up with solutions to them. That's number one. Number two, it's very important that as a party, you must be able to, when we sit there and come up with solutions, that you don't craft policies that only favors a dominant faction in the party. You must craft policies that are going to respond to the needs of the people. At this moment, the DA doesn't have those policies that are going to respond to the challenges of the people of South Africa. And I think it's time that South Africans must look at other alternatives, and the People's Dialogue is presenting a platform for them to make inputs into this platform, so that by the end of this year we should have a party that is an alternative to the ANC government. What is important, Sakina, is that it's not the DA, it's not the EFF. We need to remove the ANC out of government. And if a party like DA is not committed on removing the ANC out of government, then South Africans need to look somewhere, because every day the ANC is in government is a day too long, because the country is actually suffering because of them. So it's very important that we must be clear on that the party that doesn't want to deal and remove the ANC out of power is not a party that South Africans must be embracing and looking for solutions.
Mr. Mashaba, the People's Dialogue isn't an alternative. Why? And why should people not see it as a mere diluted version of the Democratic Alliance, especially when Democratic Alliance members are joining?
Well, I think, thank you very much, first of all, for this great opportunity, and I'm really grateful to really have really someone of Funzi Ngobeni's caliber to join this project to unseat the ANC, because I got into this job from 2014 when I actually made public known that I was voting for the DA. I made it very clear when the DA approached me to be the mayoral candidate in 2016. My project was to unseat the ANC, because for as long as we've got the ANC in power, our people are going to suffer, particularly the poor people. I don't know what the poor people have done to the ANC to be subjected to this kind of suffering. So obviously, you know my reasons for leaving the DA, so I don't have to really repeat that. And because when I left, I felt the need to really do something different, to engage South Africans, conceive the idea of the People's Dialogue, which we launched on the 6th of December. Overwhelming response, because I remember when I had an interview last with you that I would only really be able to have an idea whether I will form a political party or not after the end of February this year. Already by middle of January, with the responses we were receiving from South Africans, I could already be prepared to and confirm that absolutely a political party will be formed, and we just actually concluded engagement on our platform officially end of February. So later this month, I'll be presenting the final report, which is going to become a public document. It's going to really be it will be a document to be in the historical archives of this country, to actually demonstrate that South Africa just about to collapse. I got South Africans to get involved, and they will read millions of inputs from South Africans. So our political party, which will be launched by June at the latest this year, is going to really be informed by the responses that we've received from them. And as I said, this document will be a public document. So I'm excited with this. I've got Funzi, who's going to assist in the meantime while we're now busy with preparations to form the political party so that he can start putting the structures on the ground. I've got Paul Boughey to really look at the administrative side of this political machinery that we need to establish, and watch the space. The next few days, weeks and months, more and more South Africans of all political affiliations, religious, academia and so forth. Because, you know, for me, I strongly believe the only way we can build this country is to actually build talent from the ground up, and ensure that South Africans can one day be the stars. Because if not, our children, our grandchildren are going to ask us, what did we do when we saw the ANC destroying this country? But I think I still have hope, though we're on the edge. But I believe very strongly, South Africans, if we can apply our energies, apply our body and soul in ensuring that we can stop this collapse, because it really just scares me to think of this country being destroyed like I saw Zimbabwe, a country with such potential, be destroyed in front of my eyes.
How do you convince South Africans who believe that our salvation lies not in the political class? Because the political class have all been there. You have yourselves all been there as this collapse has happened. So how would you convince someone who is skeptical?
Well, Sakina, look, one thing that we must accept as South Africans, we must not be naive. We're not going to solve the country's problems by going to church. Unfortunately, the only way we can sort out the country's the problems, that means we have to constitutionally take over power with a party that responds to the will of the people. So I really appeal to South Africans to go into all these churches. It's fine. I think a church for me is critical. It's a foundation that actually helps to build us as human beings. But our problems are not going to come from the church. Our problems are going to come from unseating the ANC and putting in a government that people must hold accountable. Because once you put us in, or anybody else, because for us it's not really about having the power, it's about removing the ANC so that we can have an accountable government. And whether it's us or anybody else, for me that is not really the most important thing. The most important thing is to unseat the ANC, make sure that we have a government that is going to be accountable. But that accountability is not going to come from the politicians. It has to come from civil society, holding politicians accountable, because South Africa, we're in a fortunate position that every 2.5 years we can see the government. 2021, around the corner from local government elections, very, very important elections, because local government is that's where service delivery happens. So we've got an opportunity next year to really put in the government that we deserve. And then 2.5 years later, you have an opportunity to remove national government. So I think civil society must learn also to take the responsibility. Just over 18 million South Africans did not vote. You can imagine if 25% of those people had voted. ANC would be out of power. We'll probably be having a multi-party government that we can really hold accountable and assist in building a very strong democratic
Isn't that
structures.
the clearest and most empirical indication that South Africans do not trust the political class? And why should they trust the people's dialogue as not being just a coalition of disgruntled former DA members, given that you have DA members joining, it would seem, in numbers?
Not in numbers. There's two people that are not numbers.
No, it's not two. And I know you and I can have this conversation later again, because I'm sure there are more who are getting ready to come and sign up to the people. We certainly are watching. But why should people then be convinced that this is not a league of disgruntled former DA leaders? And also, if, for example, an embattled leader in the DA like Tshwane Stevens Mokgalapa were to say, I want to join the People's Dialogue, will you accept it?
He's going to pass the eye of a needle.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Any politician that's going to really, honestly, to really join this movement to unseat the ANC, more especially the ones coming from the political, well, I can tell you they've got to pass the eye of a needle.
But the talk is cheap. The ANC has been saying that for years. What does it mean to pass through the eye of the needle?
Sakina, please don't unfortunately take power away from civil society. People, ordinary South Africans, Mrs. Kumalo in Alexander or Soweto, whatever, please don't take the power away from them, because that is what the ANC government has used over the years to think that people don't have the power. That's why they're staying away. Look at please study successful democracies all over the world. Successful democracies only succeed when civil society is active and hold people accountable. But the communist ideology, like the one that ANC is pursuing, is to discourage people from actually participating in political activity and holding the politicians accountable. So your approach right now is like, I mean, you don't put it that people don't have the power. The power lies in individual South Africans to say, you know what,
I have no basis on which to make that comment. I'm simply asking, what do you mean when you say people have to pass through the eye of the needle? What
I think
is it that you
it's
expect?
like when I employ someone. I've been an employer, fortunately, for almost 40 years. I don't just really employ people because they're human beings alive. You know,
but
when I bring in someone closer to me, I make sure that I do a thorough analysis, vetting, to ensure that at the end of the day, this person.
How did you vet Mr. Ngobeni?
In this particular case, you know what, I make sure that these are people who are committed to public service. Fortunately enough, I had the honor and privilege firstly to work with Mr. Ngobeni during my campaign trail. That's when I actually first met him. I worked with him on few occasions when I was campaigning. I was really impressed with this individual. It is for that reason when I was appointing my executive team, I gave him the responsibility to be the MMC of development planning. When I fired my first MMC for finance, and I was lucky, I just really thought of this man. I said, you know what, who do I actually choose as MMC of finance? And I said, you know what, unfortunately I've got to move Ngobeni from development planning because he was doing such a good job. And I put him in finance. The finance of the City of Johannesburg under his the leadership. Fortunate enough, they are there from the Auditor General, from National Treasury, from Moody's.
The ANC doesn't think he did a very good job. They don't think he did a sterling job.
Look, I think I really feel sorry for them that you can deny the facts. Even when they've presented, in end of January, they presented the very same numbers that please ask National Treasury, ask the Auditor General. Actually, audited financials are put there. And the results are there that we really shared with society.
What was the position you left the city in Johannesburg?
Well, Moody's, for example, they gave us a clean bill of health. The Auditor General gave us an unqualified audit. We left the city with a surplus of just over 6 billion. When we inherited the city, it has a surplus of about 4 billion. We have managed to deal with the issues of billing. When I left the city for the first time, we had close to about 600 outstanding billing queries on the system. When we arrived in the city in 2016, Sakina, we had close to about 100,000 queries in the basket. And
so why is the ANC saying you left a mess?
Sorry, to come in. The thing is, the finances of the City of Johannesburg are public knowledge. You can ask the Auditor General to really give you that information.
So why are you not holding them accountable?
Ask Moody's. So
why are
you
you
don't have to trust us.
If the ANC is lying about the state in which you left the finances of the City of Johannesburg, why are you not taking them on?
Well, we had a press conference last week. Unfortunately, we only have a Tsepo there from the SABC radio. The TV was not there, but we outlined all these things to the press and to the public last week. We in council, I was actually taken to ethics before I left council last week for calling Geoff Makhubo a liar, because that's what he has been doing. Lying since the beginning of our term. He's been lying that the city is broke. We won't be able to pay for salaries up until we left. Even now that he's in government. And he's supposed to be the one selling the city to the investors. He's still lying about the city's finances. So it's amazing, But I think what is key, Sakina, is that I'm very happy to join the Mashaba. I think the last 3 years has proven that he's a man that looks at issues with a different eye. He wants to see things implemented. Like I said at the beginning, we know where the problems are. But politicians are not implementing. Politicians are not brave enough to take on these matters and act decisively on these issues. And Dr. Mashaba has, from the beginning, taken very tough decisions, things that people thought, they were maverick, they were unusual. But he sat down and said, why is this not happening? Why is it impossible to insource security guards, for example?
Okay.
And those type of things are starting to happen. Why is it impossible to really deal with the lawlessness that is in the inner city? And he said to us, it's possible to do that. Let's bring Buya Mteto. Let's make sure that we take over some of the buildings.
We're out of time. Would you go into coalition with the ANC at any point?
Absolutely not. That over my dead body. I think we are actually prepared and ready in the event that we don't get outright majority to work with any other party except the ANC.
That's where we're going to leave it. Thank you to Funzi Ngobeni and Herman Mashaba. Funzi Ngobeni was the DA's party caucus leader in the city of Johannesburg. He's resigned and joined the city's former mayor, Herman Mashaba's People's Dialogue. Much more to come from this front as we lead up to the elections next year. Let's take a break.